Welcome to another episode of Tech Talk. I'm Jess, and today we are diving into how intelligent agents are scaling enterprise-wide. From early pilots to deeply embedded production use cases. Joining me today is Ajay, who leads AI product growth for Agentforce at Salesforce. Hi, Ajay. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jess. Really good to see you.
Good to see you too, and really grateful that you have got some time from your busy schedule. And finally, I got you here.
No, good to be here. I'm settled and it's a good time. Thank you.
Great. So let's kick things off with today's hot news. And yeah, I think by the time our podcast is going to be published, it would be kind of old news, but still, let's talk about it. Salesforce acquisition of Convergence.ai, right? So these guys are really known for building adaptive agents that can really handle messy real-world interfaces, pop-ups, errors, browsers, you name it. So this deal has really shaken up. And from your seat, how do you see that this Convergence.ai is really going to make impact for Agentforce, especially industries, those who have older and brittle systems?
Yeah, no, really good question. And probably is, I think the timing wise, I would say it is absolutely right for us as a company, because you've seen starting from our CEO, Mark Benioff, talking about how important we are to the transformation of the digital labor workforce. And which means at the end of the day, we are really targeting of augmenting the end user with any industry. And looking at Convergence.ai, the ability for them to handle really complex agentic tasks allows us to take our narrative a little more further than what we could do today with Agentforce. And what's as surprising as it is they're just an 11-month-old company. And they've been building some amazing stuff and solving a very, very specific problem. And I think it's great to have that combination together at home with us. And they're local here in London. So I'm going to definitely go and meet a lot of their team as well. So really excited. And I think augmentation of the existing Agentforce capability further in the digital labor workforce. And as you said, really complex systems, which are probably not even thinking to be agentic right now. We could really reach those systems and ecosystems.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting, and looking forward to what kind of innovations and developments are going to be aligned along with Agentforce. I'm sure Agentforce is going to be more robust and the skills or the features will be widened up a lot. So let's talk about operationalizing AI agents for highly impact workflows. So 2023 was all about Gen AI pilots. 24 was more over POCs, experimentations. And 2025, we are seeing that industries have started building and are really thinking to scale now. So when you speak with enterprise leaders, you are collaborating with the organizations almost on the daily basis. So which workflows do you think tend to prioritize first for Agentforce? If you can give a couple of use cases, those which are really impacting the ROI.
Sure. I think we almost look at any customer, no matter how small, large, big enterprise, small, medium, commercial. What we typically look at their business model is how easy it is for them to come on board the very first agentic use case. And most of the customers that Salesforce has been working in the last 25 years, and probably in the last 10 years or so, where we started talking about bots or chatbots and gradually moved them to a more predictive AI. And now the evolution of Gen AI, it becomes easier for us to take them through that journey of transition. And the very first use cases that any customer is today looking at is a simple answering question FAQ agent. I think a service agent is probably the most widely looked after use case and less friction free for anybody to get started. But as we start going beyond the service agent use cases, what we have seen is some customers are really interested in bringing the back office processes to the front. And a typical example would be, instead of you having an Agentforce application or an interface sitting at the start where somebody is always constantly questioning, or towards the end, once the customer onboarding journey is completed, can you think of Agentforce lying somewhere deeply buried in the application's workflow lifecycle? So as you're probably talking to a travel hospitality booking, one of our customers is Secret Escapes. While Secret Escapes today uses Agentforce primarily to answer and address travel booking queries for luxury exotic travel packages,
Right.
Imagine if you could actually embed Agentforce deeply in their workflow while the customer going through the travel booking or the package booking doesn't even realize there's a handoff being done by an agent
Right.
in the process. So we are looking at those kind of a maturity model being picked up. And I think every customer is at a different stage of the journey. And what we do at Salesforce is probably think of how we can move them from being a more assistive generations to a more autonomous workflow.
Yeah.
And autonomous workflows could be varying depending on the industry that we talk to.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And that is what even we have seen, that the very starting point is service agent, which is the first point where customers are adapting and even doing POCs and trying to scale and put it in production and trying to scale. That's such a basic, but a concrete and a solid use case. So how do you think Agentforce really handle long running workflows that really require multiple systems, contextual memory, and a lot of decision making, right? A lot of decision chaining is there. So any example if you have from any customer?
Yes, we can take a few. And I think, first of all, to be able to do this, you definitely need the foundations to be ready.
Yes.
And as our chief technical officer or chief product officer would arguably say, we're so lucky that we have at Salesforce almost all the pieces of the puzzle available to us on the table. It's just that we've been able to start to put together the pieces of the puzzle so that the picture is starting to become more complete for us. And what do I really mean by that is we're so glad that we started work on a platform like Data Cloud many years ago. And if we didn't have foundations of Data Cloud today in the company, to your question there, we wouldn't be able to get back to the more contextual memory that the agents would need to function. And with us being able to build Agentforce on top of the same platform that we talk about, the deeply unified platform story, every time we throw any data to an agent, it actually goes through a RAG setup that is done in Data Cloud. And based on whatever longer, shorter memory context, it can always go back to the same data pool and pull it back depending on the need. And classic example is when we started first talking about Agentforce, or the pivot that we did from Copilot to agents, the story, that line that we said is, let's try it out for ourselves. Let's dogfood it. And today, very, very proud that the lessons that we learned from implementing Agentforce on help.salesforce.com, which has been the massive undertaking. It's almost like customer zero for us. And internally, today, Salesforce has over 700,000 help documents on the public internet. And what we did is we injected
700,000, right? Did I hear right?
700K. And we took all of it and we dumped it into Data Cloud, and we created a very optimized RAG strategy on it. And some of these documents keep changing. And every time there's a product release or a feature, it keeps changing. We decommission the older documents, new documents get added. All of that needs to be taken into context. Now, imagine a customer coming on to help.salesforce.com and it's live there out today. Anybody can go and try. They can ask, hey, I'm in this version of Salesforce. I'm still using one of the older Lightning components. I'm trying to migrate. And these are the feature parity and maybe some objects that I'm defining. Can you give me a path of migration? If you look at this kind of a query, it is typically going to be across, I would say, easily over 10 different articles, health documents. And the time somebody would have to spend connecting from one page to the other page to the other page, now all of that will be provided as a step-by-step instruction. And this would probably take a longer memory context because it needs to go back and find that path that is exactly what this customer is asking. And we've been able to deflect over 80% of support calls for customers coming to our call centers asking for help queries like that.
That's a great percentage, actually.
Yeah. And then the learnings from this, we've now been able to apply, I would say, almost as best practices to our customers directly. So the complexity that we were able to handle, I think I wouldn't say is the most complex. Definitely when working with larger enterprises, banking, healthcare, other retail customers, each one of them throw us a different challenge. And as I keep saying, it's a very interesting time because these problems are not going to go away. We'll always have a new problem to solve.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you're absolutely right. So this is very interesting time. Each industry, each organization have their own problem, domain related and functions related, lot of problems. So it's so interesting to see how technology is really solving our problems. So there is a big difference between deploying a bot and architecting a full-fledged AI agent that can reason, remember. And nowadays we have a lot of expectations from the agents as well, right? So we want the agents to be fully aware of domain, privacy compliant, and orchestration end to end. So you talked about components, right? One of the important components I would say is data cloud, but then it is not needed, correct?
Yes.
So if we be specific to Agentforce, would you help in making it clear that what all are the core components and how do you break down tasks, memories, skills, orchestration when it comes together?
Right. Okay. So if we are sort of whiteboarding this in front of a customer, I would probably put it as like the key components of agents or an agentic building blocks, if you would say. Data cloud, even though like it's a foundation layer, one of the key components, and we'll address this more in a deeper topic. But the benefit that you get with Data Cloud coming together with Agentforce is a lot of logging that we do, the ability for us to trace back what is actually happening. We are writing those logs back, the traceability auditing, all of that goes back to Data Cloud. And there are customers today who use Data Cloud in combination with their own data platforms. Imagine somebody would have built an already well-defined data strategy. We're not telling them that put all that data into Data Cloud. You could use technologies like zero copy, which we've really pioneered now, that could allow somebody working on a Databricks or a Snowflake or Azure Data Fabric to just mirror that data so that Agentforce can consume it and Data Cloud becomes a conduit that can facilitate that. So that's how we sort of coexist in the wider ecosystem. The other building blocks largely is like you could probably say there's a role, there's a topic, there's an instruction, and then there's, of course, the guardrail or the trust. And underneath the hood, there's the Data Cloud. And the reason I would probably divide this as these building blocks is every time we try to bring an agent into a customer's ecosystem, the best possible explanation is think of you hiring a really smart intern into the company. And all they know is they have a cognitive ability, but they have no background about your company in a more deeper sense. They do not know what this role does. You have to almost give them a playbook that, hey, this is your role. This is how you can be successful. This is your day job. This is what you're supposed to do 9 to 5 and so on. So when you're creating an agent, you almost define a role of what that agent is. There's a topic particularly which tells that what that agent's scope is. And then there will be a series of instructions which will tell you, hey, these are the boundary lines or the control planes that the agent will operate in. And then you can define more guardrails or trust, because sometimes you do not want an agent to be peeking into some things that you do not want a business process to go into. So these would almost become like the key building blocks. And depending on some of the customers, and this is Salesforce language, by the way. So when I go and talk to some of the customers, what is interesting to see is what we call as topics and instructions. And there could be multiple topics and multiple instructions under a same agent. There are vendors outside the company, outside of Salesforce, who probably call each topic as an agent in itself. So there is this different definitions of single agent, multi-agent. So I know we probably will end up talking about multi-agent somewhere down the line. Yeah, these are probably the building blocks, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good thing that you have cleared a couple of months back while I was in a conference. So this topic was brought into discussion. And I mean, even I used to think the same way, that one agent is assigned to one work. This is what is happening outside of Salesforce. But in Salesforce Agentforce, it is multiple topics can be assigned to the same agent, right? So now, if you have initiated the topic of multi-agent, so would like to know if you can differentiate what is multi-agent in Agentforce and how it is a differentiator would be great.
Right. Okay. Internally at Salesforce, and possibly I think we have now started to translate this back to our customers, is there's two different definitions of looking at multi-agents. Because Salesforce has itself multiple clouds, Sales Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Service Cloud, Industry Clouds. If there is an agent that does in a specific cloud, specific task or a cloud specific agent, and a combination of those itself from within Salesforce, that could be a multi-agent Salesforce ecosystem, multi-agent. There are other definitions where an agent could be from Salesforce, there could be an agent from ServiceNow, an agent from HubSpot, an agent that is probably custom created just by writing a bunch of code. And there are customers who typically have more than one of these deployments. And bringing these together is another approach of multi-agents. And given that the definition of multi-agent is a continuously evolving terminology, we've really started establishing standards or adhering to standards like a model context protocol, Anthropic. Became super popular since they went viral and open source. Almost every company that I know who is building agent or AI solutions is adopting MCP. And then a few weeks later, maybe a month later, Google started talking about the A2A, agent-to-agent protocol. And I'm very proud to say that Salesforce has started adopting or even releasing variants of MCP. Like we've released the MCP server variant for Heroku. We've released the MCP connectors for MuleSoft that allows us to orchestrate into multiple systems. And then for A2A, it's a very interesting thing because we are in deep partnership as a part of the larger consortium that has over 50 companies that is working towards a common goal of what is that multi-agent industry protocol should look like.
Yeah, great. That is exciting. So you said that right now we have the capability of interacting with the external agents. We do have, right, in Agentforce.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. That makes it so powerful. And we often see with the organization that launching of AI pilots is quite easy, but then they never ever graduate to full deployment. It's like pretty tough, and most of the organization face that. So either their use case is too narrow, or they're unclear, or it is the infrastructure is not ready. But Agentforce, if you see that, Agentforce has broken the cycle, and we have been hearing really great things and capabilities about Agentforce and have started implementing with our customers as well. So tell me, what is the maximum number of agents you can create in Agentforce?
I wouldn't say there's like a definition of the number of agents that you can.
So there isn't any cap or the limit, right?
You shouldn't see it as a cap or a limit because it goes back to what I spoke earlier about. What do you want the agent to be doing, like the end goal? And when we go into like our distribution team or the sales team, solution engineering architects, they go into the cycles of workshopping this. We all start by looking at what is the jobs to be done. And the jobs to be done are almost converted to become topics and instructions for an agent. And we then realize that, hey, maybe all these topics could be bundled to do a single task under the single agent rather than maybe dividing them into smaller composite tasks. And I'll give you an example. This was for a company that you've probably seen in public that you talked about, Remarkable. They're e-ink tablet company, which removes distraction from not having an iPad. It just focused on like reading and just writing. They're a very small company based out of Norway, Oslo, and about 50 to 70 employees. And the company CEO came to us saying, hey, we want to continue growing because there's a large scale demand for a lot of people who do not want distraction, to want to use our tablets. And they have a very unique way of how they build that technology. And the biggest question mark for them was they're getting a lot of inquiries and they did not have the manpower to handle those inquiries. So they basically wanted to put like a service agent in front of their user experience on the website. And what we've typically handled is initially what started off as like an FAQ agent that could answer some simple questions. Because agents are defined to be not contextually bound. Like when you look at the predictive chatbot, you almost had a well-defined flow. There's a happy path, there's an unhappy path, but you almost could define that if else, do then this, and that kind of a looping state. But in this world of generative, it's a lot of unpredictability that you do not know what kind of autonomous behavior could get kicked in. One of the examples I'll give you for Remarkable, they started getting customers coming in with a query that, hey, can I trade my iPad for Remarkable? And the agent should be smart enough to say, hey, look, on an iPad, you might end up watching videos. You might watch Netflix or other things. But on a Remarkable, you cannot actually do that. And an agent should be able to proactively give this upfront recommendation,
Yeah.
which a human would normally do and a
Mm-hmm.
salesperson would normally do if somebody comes trading for an iPad to a
Yeah.
Remarkable. And that is the behavior we were able to get in to Remarkable as a brand. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is customers almost think they need to package so many things into different processes. But
Mm-hmm.
in this agentic era, we could almost cut their tasks into well-defined statements.
Yeah.
And almost, if there is reason to be done, we could package it in an action that needs to go to an external system. So I would almost put a lens on top of every use case every time a customer talks to us.
Yeah, I think having a use case is very important. So it is really making sense. It is really impacting your business or not. So definition of use case is the first and primary thing which any organization should focus on before implementing anything. So that is what even we ensure that we help our customers on that. So coming back to the production scaling, so what are the typical path you have seen from pilot to production, and what are the stages or milestone you think are successful for customers, and sometimes why they do not move further to production, why they fail?
Yeah, I think one
A lot
of
of
the
questions and
no, it's a valid one. And I think you're connecting a lot of dots there. So it's probably how we've seen the evolution as well. And again, it goes back to us having the right pieces of the puzzle on the table with us. What we learned very quickly in our pivot of Copilot to agent around Dreamforce last year, you saw that first time we talked about Agentforce. I can go on camera saying that even went to a point where our CEO wanted to rename the company as Agentforce.
yes, I have heard this. I have heard this. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what would have been the repercussions if we had done that, but yeah, that is how powerful the sentiment was in the
That's
company.
very powerful. Yeah.
And the reason why this is important is Salesforce for the first time has almost built a full agentic lifecycle, development lifecycle. And what that means is today we can give right from agent creation, agent designing, creation, deploy, test, deploy, manage, and again, go through the whole cycle. All of this could be done for the first time within the scope of the platform. When was the last time you remember Salesforce provided anything as an inbuilt testing ability, testing platform suite? We never done this. We almost have had external vendors that we've partnered with. Not to say we will not partner with them anymore, but what we wanted to give our customers is one platform, one benchmark test bed where they could actually go through the whole life cycle. And this is actually in a way proving a lot of stickiness for our customers that when we get them on board to do like a POC or an MVP, they go from moving an MVP to a proof of concept to taking it to like a sandboxing stage where all of this is so seamless that they don't feel they have to keep juggling across multiple platforms. And these features are just like available to all our customers at the provision stage. So depending on what they want to use, they could turn it off and on. I would say that has been the most friction-free approach that I have seen, because of which anybody who gets on to coming on board MVP stage almost ends up going through the whole life cycle of production deployment. And because we look at this as like, it's not once deployed, the job is not done. It's a consumption loop. We want customers to think of not just deploying an agent, but we want them to use it. And we are actively working with those customers to educate them, re-educate them, and expand those use cases as well. Like you've seen me talking about service agent, but what if there is another agent which is probably just sitting in the pure back office process, which doesn't even interact with the front-end consumer? And that could be an entirely new agent on its own. So we are unlocking use case by use case. So it goes back to the question of, do you have a well-defined use case to begin with? And then we start taking them through that cycle of maturity.
Yeah, great point. And what are the lessons learned from the fail or stuck implementations? Have you encountered any time when the organization tried to implement but couldn't because of certain things? So would like to know from that perspective as well.
Yeah, I think it's almost like some of the questions that we almost generally ask is around data preparedness. Is your organization ready to have an agent that can work with data that it could consume? And one of the myths I would like to bust at this stage is Salesforce Agentforce is designed in such a way that you don't have to have like a 100% sorted golden record of a data. We can start by working with a raw data set, and an agent could actually be set up to prove value that it can actually do the job it's supposed to do. And if there are a lot of customers or partners or the wider ecosystem players that we see where data is not even in that early formant stage. So probably not having a thought process of what data to use becomes the biggest blocker when they do not even know that, hey, just to maybe to deploy this first service agent use case, I'm still struggling across, should I use this 2 data set or should I just use this 1 master data set? And just the decisioning factor, I think, could delay some of the deployments or moving ahead. The other ones are largely around, because how Salesforce has been often giving both low code, no code approach. For the first time, a lot of non-developers, business audiences are now getting a full-fledged hands-on approach to deploy an agent, which allows them to be more not dependent on IT anymore, to deeply deploy agents. And some of those companies that we end up seeing where there's a lot of overlap on the roles and responsibility of IT and business, that decisioning factor again for that to latency. The other approaches are when customers are trying to work across multiple solutions, I would say. They are trying to evaluate for accuracy. They're almost like, everybody's like hunting and I want to get 100% accurate responses. And when you start your experiment, you cannot almost start with 100% accuracy. You will approach 100% accuracy over a period of time as you improve your data quality, as you improve your prompt instruction quality and things like that. But that's something that is a changing mindset. And I would almost see anybody who is trying to build, we talked about this, if somebody is trying to build an agentic workflow like a linear flow process that they used to traditionally do in Salesforce, that's not always going to work. They need to unlearn the deterministic way of handling things and learn the non-deterministic approach. And it takes a little bit of a re-education. So Salesforce has now been really championing customers to go through that. You might have seen the innovator champion and led and trails. So we tell each of our customers, please do this.
Go through it first.
Please do this.
Yes. So that's great. I mean, anyway, I'm impressed, and I was impressed with Salesforce training modules, right? I mean, not every company does that. Not every product company does that. So the way Salesforce is training people, it's amazing. They have you have great set of documents, training enablement. There is a whole set of training team, which is time and again training the customers, training the partners like us, and enabling. So that's wonderful and a great initiative as well. So in one of the points you mentioned that a lot of customers basically work on multi-platform, right? So tell me more about when the data platform is multiple, for example, Snowflake and if they have Databricks and different other data platforms, plus they have MuleSoft, they have different ERPs, then the agent layer must sit across them and should get the data from all of them. So zero copy is one of the things, but what are the enhancements happening inside zero copy? If you can, I know it's a very, very broad topic, but then if you can highlight a couple of enhancements which happened lately in zero copy, that will help.
Yeah, I think we're spending a lot of time. It's a good question. We're spending a lot of time around handling unstructured data, because one thing that is going to be really critical for how agents are going to be deployed in enterprises is we find more than 80% of the data is still unstructured. Any company, shape, size, format. And the more and more we experiment with unstructured, I think there's a lot more unknowns that we are discovering. And this is probably one of those areas that is still ripe for innovation. Even in the data players, like you could probably say Databricks, Snowflake, they still are in that evolution journey of handling unstructured data. So we are still building stronger data pipelines. We are, for example, upgrading how we do RAG as well, in terms of better optimization, chunking techniques. And there's a brilliant white paper that I could definitely recommend people to go and read on RAG best practices, published by one of my colleagues. And that talks about the deeper lessons that we've learned about optimizing data cloud for RAG. And coming to the other part of your question, where there are multiple of these systems that we have to work with, that's going to be the play at the end of the day. Customers are going to be asking us, how can I plug Agentforce whilst I still have my other applications up and running. And one of the things that I often end up telling my customers who are typically in a large enterprise scale net is take a look at what is that set of subsystems that you need Agentforce to act upon, because some of them need to give data to Agentforce for it to initially work with their prompt and instructions. But then some of the systems don't even need to give data, but really rely on the action that an agent would go and do there. For example, working for a large retail CPG customer, what they want to do, an agent to do is stock inventory. Depending on how quickly the products run out of the shelf at the supermarket, they want the agent to autonomously pre-order from the warehouse and pre-order in such a way that it bulk orders it so that before the shelf product runs out, the inventory is ready at the store.
Great.
And this would actually save them millions in shipment for a period of time, and it doesn't involve a human.
Exactly.
Right. So we are optimizing a lot of those processes. And again, this involves like understanding industry language, that translating it into what Data Cloud could do. And you talked about MuleSoft. I come from that land. Before stepping into the product role, I was a MuleSoft solutions leader for UKI. And one of the things that we work deeply is MuleSoft is, when we acquired, it was a very interesting acquisition for Salesforce. It was basically opening up the outside world for Salesforce. And since then, it has only gone from strength to strength. And it is still playing a very important role with Agentforce, because what it can do today is augments agents' capability to interact with multitude of systems that are beyond Salesforce's reach. And now we've talked about introducing MCP server. There was an innovation done by the field called as the MuleSoft AI chain, which was an ability for us to interact with any external model and things like that. So a combination of these coming together with MuleSoft and, of course, Data Cloud innovation and Agentforce. And, of course, we didn't talk about Agent API, which was actually a really cool innovation. That is our approach to make Agentforce almost headless, I would say.
Yeah.
And that has been the biggest ask by a lot of customers. Like,
tell me more about it.
Can you make Agentforce so lightweight and headless that I can actually take it and plug it anywhere? And for somebody like our GM, Adam Evans, our AI EVP and GM of product, he's bringing me as like, we need to be able to take Agentforce and make it so lightweight, of course, with all the goodness of Data Cloud and the platform capabilities packed in, that it should be pluggable on top of any system. Like, for example, you should be able to even plug it on top of Microsoft Dynamics for all we know. And there are customers coming and asking us these questions that, hey, I'm a very Microsoft heavy shop, but I love what you guys have done with Agentforce. Can I take this layer and just put it on top? Today, you can still do it, but what we are trying to do is making it more and more functionally heavy in terms of giving all the capabilities. So Agent API today exposes a lot of capabilities. We are trying to make it more robust so that tomorrow, the developer or a business user working with a third-party system doesn't even have to have a need of going inside the Salesforce UI. They can get all the goodness just by calling an Agent API.
That's great. That's really going to impact a lot. So like how you mentioned, so you do not even know to go to log in into the Salesforce, and then still you can use all the features and capabilities. So when are we expecting this to be live?
I think we are progressively updating a lot of these. Agent API is available today. It exposes a lot of functionality. If you ask me, we are continuously adding additional capabilities. Agentforce Voice is one of the biggest innovations down in the pipeline. It's expected to go GA during Dreamforce, but we are continuously adding additional extensive monitoring and the authoring capabilities to agent, and all of those functionality we need to be able to give as a endpoint exposed to Agent API. And I think we've now started creating like Agentforce SDK on Python that was released recently. That's really been adopted by a lot of developers who want to just use it from a dev mindset. And I've seen so many cool innovations where somebody's taken that SDK, plugged it into Cursor, and they've just started building AI applications that uses combination of Agentforce along with other third-party systems. And they don't even bother coming into Salesforce to log in to do that.
Wow. How cool is that? Yeah, that's amazing. So Ajay, tell me more about, you have been working almost every day with interesting customers, even inside, and you're handling the product team. So tell me one top interesting use case that you cannot forget they are using Agentforce and building something amazing?
I'll tell you a use case that I heard that was super, super interesting for us. But I think we are still trying to figure out a way how to do this for that customer. They're a very large retail CPG customer, and they have over 100,000 SKUs or products that they sell to end consumers. And what they wanted to do is the chief AI officer's dream or vision was, hey, I need to be able to have like an ambassador agent for each of my product. And for example,
Each of the product.
For each of the products. So basically like evangelize, digital evangelist, if you could say. Let's say as an end consumer, I go to them and I say, hey, I want to bake a cake for my daughter. And they understand my Indian palate, staying in London, where my geography is right now. And depending on these combination, those 4 or 5 agents, each one of them allocated to a SKU, should be able to talk to each other and come together to offer me a personalized baking menu, which is very much tailored just to me, right? And that's how digitally savvy some customers are talking about. And coming back to reality from where that is one of the vision use cases, to what we are doing really today is what I talked about, some of the back office embedding of agents, and where we are really interesting to see customers almost, you could say, hiding away Agentforce in their business workflow. So today we have an application which is used by almost all Fortune 100 companies, and we will probably announce it when it becomes a referenceable marketing reference, where Agentforce is being embedded in the workflow of that application. So as the user starts using that application, they will almost be going from one menu to the other menu to the other menu. And in between, if they don't know how to use some part of the menu, there's always an agent embedded in that application. So it guides them from saying, hey, I observed that you did this, but can I show you an easier approach to go there and do this? So think of this as like somebody being there as an autonomous helper, always there. But this is not the use case that we started to imagine with. Like we always thought, oh, it would be about asking how to use this platform. But in the context, learning as the user is doing things, it's like every user is almost getting like personalized agent. And now we are about to launch employee agents, which is a really cool thing. And our CEO, Mark Benioff, says this is probably the last lineage of C-suite, which will have just humans reporting into that. So we will all have like agents showing up in our org chart. And I think that's becoming a reality more than anything.
Wow. Let's see what more innovations can be done in 6 months. I think 6 months will really change things a lot. So before we move on to the interesting part, which is rapid fire, casually want to know, what are you doing in Salesforce? Other than your work? I've heard last time when I spoke with you, you have been internally doing a lot of collaborations. You're a part of different teams, different meetups. So tell me more about it. So interesting to know.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm one of those people you could probably categorize inside Salesforce as like a super connector. And
even outside Salesforce, I would say.
I have my day job, which is right now in AI product. But
this is the
and
post-day job.
Post-day job. So, but I think I spend a lot of time evangelizing product with our customers, our ecosystem partners. And I think one of those things that is often beyond the job description is understanding the ecosystem as well. And one of those things that I've really enjoyed is building a very strong internal community at Salesforce. And this is like me being one of the champions, talking about all things AI, but Salesforce is definitely at the heart of it. But a lot of times, one of the key elements that I discovered is each of the customers and everybody out there is at a different learning paths in their journey. So I do spend a lot of time going back and what's the best way to educate somebody? Because there's so many resources available out there. And I'm not just talking about Salesforce, it's just general AI education. So I almost participate in multiple volunteering activities. Salesforce encourages us to spend time doing VTO, and we get time off for it as well. I love to go back and teach people at all different ages, like middle school kids to older people, what is AI? What is transformer? What is an architecture of a transformer? What does ChatGPT do behind the scene?
Yeah.
And I love doing that. And it gives me a lot of energy back to come back and do my day job. And that's where I keep doing a bunch of these other things. But I love speaking to customers outside as well. So you'll probably see me on other events and other forums. So yeah, I think traveling is a little bit part of the job as well. I'm trying to cut down as much as I can on travel. Have a three-year-old at home, and it's tough to leave her away and be away.
Yeah. Hats off to your wife.
Yes. Yeah. She's the one. She's the one.
Yeah, you're doing great job. Every day in LinkedIn, I follow you and your interesting posts as well. So it's so difficult to even know your whereabouts. One day you're in London, the other day you're in India, the next day you are in USA. But then amazing, great job. And thank you so much for all the insights. Let's go and do our rapid fire round. Going to be pretty interesting. So one myth about AI agents you would love to burst.
Right. Okay. So there's a myth called the myth saying that AI solutions or AI platforms are job stealers. I would say they are drudgery stealers. They would give you time back to do more creative work. So that is exactly what it is right now. And I don't think we should look at it through the other lens because it'll take you down the rabbit hole and it's very hard to debate your outcome. It's always
because you cannot even control.
Yes.
So do not get demotivated. Instead, start working. So great. So one Agentforce feature that you feel is underrated but very powerful.
I think the ability to define topics and instructions and put it all together in a prompt cycle, I think it's so underrated that people feel it's so hard to capture what an agent should be able to do. And we've made it so easy to put it all together as a description. It's almost like putting your thoughts down there and then
it's just form and then, so you just feed the information. It's pretty simple. Yes. So one book that has shaped your thinking on enterprise AI.
Oh, enterprise AI. I think it started a while back. Probably, I wouldn't like enterprise AI evolved over a period of time.
Or just AI. One book that has really helped you in shaping or defining or understanding AI.
The first one, probably two books if I look at the spectrum. The first book was the first time I read Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy when I was in high school. And I thought there are 42 layers of the universe. And now when I look at it from the AI world that we are in, so some of those realities are becoming not the 42 layers, but of course there are stages that we dream about transformers into different algorithms. But there's also the one that I've recently read, not a while back, called The Master Algorithm by an author named Pedro Dominos. I've got the second name right. That was really interesting because he talked about the unified theory of how everything could be around one master algorithm. And I think as we are all from an industry perspective approaching AGI or thinking about AGI, it is a book that I will go back to again in a few months or few years.
Yeah, that's great. So one dream Agentforce use case which you think should go live soon, or soon as in 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, but that is your dream feature or dream capability.
Wow. Okay. There's something that me and my wife talked about. And I don't know if we do this using Agentforce, but both of us wanted to star ourselves in the Mission Impossible movie. Almost like if Netflix has an agent, we want to give them our short clipping of a video, and then the transformer or the agent embedded inside Netflix will take that and convert us into a character that gets deeply embedded into the movie somewhere, and we show up in numerous places, and we would pay for that subscription of that particular movie. We would even buy the movie rights as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, great vision. I hope this comes true soon. Let me know whenever this is going to get live. So that's great. Thank you so much, Ajay. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be one of the best episodes. And thanks for sharing all the use cases.
No, thank you. Really, really pleased to be talking to you, Ryan. Yeah, it was thank you for keeping it very conversational as well.